Hi, I'm Vanessa Morgan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm part of an organization Nicole and I formed called Career Equality. And my role in the organization really is to help with things using my license and my clinical background with things like communication, conflict resolution, really looking at some of the systemic issues within an organization to promote lasting change. So that's kind of where I fit in, and we have very complementing skills. So I'll turn it over to Nicole.
And my name is Nicole Palanjian, and I am very excited for this organization to help others because, unlike most of them, they don't have an actual licensed therapist with the education and the background to help people get through some of these issues that they find at the workplace. People forget that it really stems from the inside, and learning how to communicate, learning who we are, and dealing with some of our shortcomings and our strengths can really help within an organization. It's just a matter of getting someone to get those tools to bring it out of ourselves. My background is actually, I have an MBA in marketing from Pepperdine University, actually an MBA, but my emphasis is in marketing. And I've been doing that for about 18 years in and out of different industries, whether it was IT, medical, manufacturing, real estate, extreme sports, all of it. And I've seen it firsthand, and it really affected my career path, actually. I decided to step away after a couple times of just feeling very I don't know what the right word is, but just really losing my passion for working for a corporation. And a lot of it was because I didn't let myself have the tools to communicate better with my boss. There was things that were happening, and I thought out of respect, I wouldn't stand up for myself, and I really should have. And hindsight, it would have made my relationship better. So I really wanted to form this organization to help the organization from the executive level, from the team level, and even from the leadership level. And having Vanessa with her license is really just going to help be a game changer for any organization with our skill set complementing each other. So we're going to start doing some podcasts here often. So the first one is going to start soon. We're going to always try to give away 5 takeaways, so that way you guys have an easy way to remember some of the skills that you've learned from our podcasts, and then you can watch further to go in depth. So we're going to start that in 1 minute. Here, Career Equality Coaching, and we're going to go over our podcast, which is based on the transition of working from the office to home during this pandemic, and the 5 strategies that we're going to give you so that we can help support you during this time. So the first one is going to be to relearn your team. I think this is critical and very important that you understand that the team that you had at the office is not the same at home. This means that they might be working at different paces, they might have different issues, different time frames, and you really need to understand and learn who and how long it takes somebody to get some of their goals done. The reason why is as soon as you give people a goal and a time frame, it needs to be something that they can truly achieve. Something that might be able to do at the office, they might not be able to do it in the same time frame. Some of your employees might actually do it faster. So setting up realistic expectations and goals for them is going to help them stay engaged. When people feel like they cannot, achieve those goals, they're going to start becoming disengaged, and the productivity is going to go down. So it's very important to understand who they are, even if they're different, and don't assume they are the same employee as they were before they were working from the office.
So the second thing that you can do is really set a culture and make very clear in your actions. You want to convey that supporting the employees is the priority of the company. That when things like this happen, the priorities shift, and when it maybe was productivity and things like that before, now it is, how do we support you? And, one way that can look is really just acknowledging on a personal level with your employee that a significant change has occurred. We're really in something right here, because I think culturally people can kind of tend to shy away from hard topics or overwhelming topics. Like, if I don't, acknowledge it, it will go away. But this clearly isn't going away, and we need to communicate that to our employees that, like, hey, we're going to be with you and be open and communicative while this is going on. One thing we can do in that, in the communication, is really help our employees kind of name specifically what's going on for them. So they can name some things that are working and maybe are better at home, and then some things that are not working, and how they're hoping you can support them in that.
The next thing actually kind of touches upon what Vanessa said, and that strategy is communication. So I think it's so important that your team's able to come to you with any issues that they might be having. I think right now with, Maybe their kids, they have children and they're working from home, or maybe they're sharing a space that they have to work with their partner that also is working from home. These are all things that you want to know about because maybe you can help them. But also before, the job market right now is extremely scary. There's so many businesses that are going out of business. There's so many jobs and people have been let go. Your employees, your staff might be afraid to come to tell you and say, look, like, I really just don't have anybody to watch my children. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And you can come up with maybe ideas. For example, if your business doesn't have to be run, 8 hours from 8 to 6 or 8 to 5, maybe let them know and say, hey, do your children take naps? Maybe we can set up our calls during that time so you have a little bit more of an undivided attention for me. And then maybe you work a couple hours during the work hours, and then you're able to catch up on your work when you put your children to sleep. I'm okay with doing that. I'm flexible. However, if you don't have a business that allows that, hear what they're saying, communicate, and let them tell you what maybe some of the issues are having. Because the last thing you want is during a time that's very stressful and was not planned, not showing up for them and them being afraid to tell you. And then that's going to also lead to a lack of productivity. They're going to start avoiding doing work because they just can't do it. So that's essential to have that productivity level stay on par by you being flexible and maybe working with them around some of their needs.
Yeah, and one piece I'll add to that just for the relationship portion of the, what Nicole's saying is that sometimes it's not even about the problem solving, it's that they know that they can be honest with you. And so I think that thing is two-part, is you want to know what's going on so you can genuinely kind of help maybe problem solve and clarify expectations, but also you do want to build that expectation that like, hey, if something's going on that's affecting your work performance, you don't need to fake it. We need to be honest and transparent with each other about what's going on so that we can really, be clear on what we're expecting from each other. So I just want to highlight that point. Really, as leaders, viewing this change as an opportunity to build rapport and trust, because whenever people experience adversity, there really is an opportunity for people to become closer within that. And one of the things that we know from the research is that whenever people are experiencing hardship, it's very, very important for their sense of resiliency to concurrently experience very positive things. So as a boss, you can create those experiences being really intentional with your employees. So perhaps that looks like creating a bi-weekly coffee hour where everyone gets together and shares things that are working for them, or tips and suggestions for things they've done at home that are working well. Another thing that you can do is make it fun and do a little team building exercise where you have a competition for making a workspace at home. Maybe give them a little budget, have them decorate a space, and then share that space. Just things that are going to be fun and positive experiences that are bonding for the employees to kind of have that rapport like they would if they were at work still.
I think that's really a great idea because I think at the end of the day, when you're working in an office and being able to just pop over your cubicle or to the office to talk to your friends, you're not by yourself at home. So having that is really good because that way people don't feel isolated. They still feel like they're part of something, and the camaraderie that they're missing from working in an office space. I really like that idea.
Yeah, and that's just really important and crucial during this time in general, is to support the social aspect as much as you can, because that's what people are missing so desperately right now.
All aspects, not just at the workplace, but at home and everything else. Mm-hmm. So number 5, last but not least, know your leadership style. So similarly to relearning your staff and your team, you also have to relearn who you are as a virtual boss. This new dynamic of working from home can create wonderful things and also some things that aren't going to be very helpful to you. I think it's important to set boundaries. I think it's important that you also understand your team and set clear goals and timeframes for them. Because if you don't know when they're going to be submitting their work, it might create some type of insecurity in yourself, and you start doing extra work that you don't need to do because you're worried they're not going to submit. So over time, trusting them and seeing their workload and their workflow is going to help you. But also for yourself, you need to ask, were you a very involved boss prior to working from home? Were you not involved? How are you going to translate that to actually working from home? You don't want to start calling people too much or setting expectations that are unrealistic of availability. So I think it's very important to understand who you want to be and strive to put boundaries in place that get you there as a virtual boss.
Yeah, piggybacking on what you said, just this idea of really, if you are feeling anxious about productivity or what your employees are doing or not doing, checking in with yourself and saying, hey, is this really warranted anxiety? Is this displaced because of my own circumstances that I'm trying to control, people who I can control, my employees. So really just checking in and knowing where it is, because if you're the kind of boss at home or in the office where you could have systems in place and be relatively hands off, if all of a sudden you're following up and making sure things are getting done, it's really going to convey a lack of trust and, hurt the relationship and structures that you had in place to begin with. So I would say check in with yourself, give it time. Is this a situation that's going to improve by itself over time, or something that I really need to intervene and figure out what's going on if, things aren't happening at the productivity level that I'm comfortable with? And I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, thanks you guys for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to submit any emails to info@careerequality.com. And we look forward to seeing you guys watch our next podcast. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.